In an American presidential debate, candidate John Edwards admitted that the reason he opposed decriminalization of marijuana was because it would, quote, send the wrong message to young people, end quote. This type of thinking inspired enough thought in me, I had to make a video about it. I think that the message would be accurate. Number one, it isn't harmful and shouldn't be illegal. But also the message would be that you actually do live in a free society, that this country actually does stand for all the things it claims to stand for. I think our society puts more than enough emphasis on creating a kind of pretend reality for children, anyway. From, censorship of music and television and books and other great works of art to actual persecution of pot smokers who are doing nothing more to affect society than to pay their taxes. Maybe, sweeten the portfolios for snack food stockholders. That's about it. We're actively engaging in a masking of reality for the supposed sake of children. I distinctly remember a moment when I was, maybe 14, 15 years old, when I had a realization of things that I'd probably known for quite some time at that point, but it was a culmination of realizations that left me suddenly with a profound feeling of disappointment. I was extremely disappointed with how the world actually worked. When the fantasy world that adults create for children vanishes, and let's face it, unless you're a creationist, it always eventually does, it's quite the letdown. I don't see the value in whitewashing the world for children. I think you should be allowed to say fuck on TV. I think prostitution and gambling should be legalized, even though I've never had any interest in either of those activities, or TV for that matter. I think young people need to be sent messages that are rooted in reality. As it is, we all enter adulthood with a head full of misperceptions placed there by a society with an emphasis on concealment of reality for young people. Let me ask you this. Why is it that certain things, television for instance, is even bound by guidelines that are oriented to children? If the world suddenly was such that it didn't cater to children in the degree that it does, wouldn't that simply mean that as a parent it would be up to you to decide if television was even suitable for your child? Then adults could, in a free society, decide if the market demanded a channel devoted to cannabis or beer or anything you can think of, regardless of how it affects children, who are better off anyway without that type of sheltering, in my opinion. There are currently television channels devoted to things as mundane as fishing. The pot channel would get plenty of ratings. Ben and Jerry commercials would be plentiful. John Edwards was concerned with how decriminalization would be perceived by young people. How about adults? Do we even count in society? What's wrong with us that we only value young life? I always notice that when there's a tragedy, it's always noted how many children were involved. Does this add impact to the tragedy? Not to me. Children are people too. I understand they do need certain adjustments to their access of information. I understand that. I just don't see why so many of our societal constructs revolve around children and limiting their awareness. Is John Edwards and people like him worried that young people will be sent the message that we've all been lied to for decades about marijuana, that we can't believe any of the nonsense our government says if the government finally admits its mistake in criminalizing pot? That realization is inevitable, John. It's damage control time. The government fucked up, and it's apparent to almost everyone. Even on YouTube, a debate-rich environment, good luck finding someone posting videos about the dangers of marijuana. There aren't any. It's time to send the message to our children and anyone else within earshot that we're bigger than that. We can admit our mistakes and we can right wrongs. We did it with slavery, women's rights, and so on. Sheltering children from real issues doesn't prepare them for the harshness of the real world. They're strolling into a car wash with an umbrella and a song in their hearts, and they aren't expecting to get wet.